going down.
The only thing I think that kept us guided was the music.
My whole world's upside down.
It just saved you.
People call her the queen of hip-hop soul, a symbol of healing, a voice celebrated as the strength of black womanhood. But the truth behind Mary J. Blige is far less beautiful than the applause. Behind the stage lights lies a childhood crushed by violence addiction and wounds that could not be spoken aloud. At the age of 5, Mary endured something no child should ever have to endure. Her music did not come from glory, it rose out of despair, out of depression. When audiences cried over love songs, Mary was singing to save herself. When she became a money-making machine, the system around her quietly fed her self-destruction. The songs you love are in truth survival diaries. After knowing all of this, can anyone still dare to see Mary J. Blige as just a legend? From a broken Bronx to the foundation of an icon. Before the world came to know Mary J. Blige as the queen of hip-hop soul, there was a girl born in 1971 who grew up among public housing projects in the Bronx, New York, a place where poverty, violence, and addiction were not abstract ideas, but the rhythm of everyday life. It was not an environment meant to nurture dreams, but one where people learned how to survive long before they had the chance to think about the future. Mary's childhood was bound to a fractured family. Her mother struggled with severe alcoholism, constantly battling her own psychological trauma. Her father, a musician who had served in the Vietnam War, brought home not only a guitar, but also long-lasting PTSD. Nightmares, sudden bursts of anger, and a cold, suffocating silence became familiar features of the household. In the cramped space of a public housing apartment, Mary learned early that not everyone is born protected, and that safety is something you have to find for yourself. Her early years were marked not only by material deprivation, but by deep emotional wounds. Domestic violence caused Mary to grow up with a constant sense of insecurity, always on guard. She did not have a childhood in the true sense of the word, no peaceful evenings, no full nights of sleep. Instead, there was prolonged silence and the need to retreat inward to avoid further harm. It was in this environment that Mary's personality began to take shape, quiet, introspective, and carrying a sadness difficult to name. Amid all that chaos, Mary found one rare place that offered a sense of safety: the church. There she was not judged or threatened. Music was not performed for entertainment, but for comfort. Mary once said she loved going to church because it was the one place where she would not be hurt. Church services became her first spiritual anchor, a place where faith and music merged, helping a broken child find somewhere for her soul to stand. From that sacred space, music gradually became Mary's language of survival. She was not formally trained, nor did she have access to structured music education. But her voice carried real experience, something no classroom could teach. It was the voice of a child who had witnessed too much pain of a teenager longing to be heard and understood. Each time she sang, Mary was not merely performing, she was stitching herself back together. At 16, Mary dropped out of school. That decision was not an act of youthful rebellion, but the result of an environment that had become too heavy to endure. She slipped into drug use, something that appeared as a temporary escape from reality. During those years, Mary lived amid parties, hard liquor, and cocaine, a familiar cycle for many young people in the Bronx at the time. Later, she never denied that past. On the contrary, Mary described it as the environment that shaped who she became, a clear-eyed perspective that neither romanticizes nor evades responsibility. A voice discovered when no one was expecting it. Mary J. Blige's turning point arrived in a way no one could have planned. Not in a professional studio, not at a formal audition, but on a hastily recorded cassette tape at a karaoke spot where Mary, then just 17 years old, was singing the way she always did to release her pain. That voice, raw yet forceful, carrying everything she had never been able to say, accidentally reached the ears of people with the power to decide a fate in the music industry. When the tape made its way to Uptown Records, the reaction was not skepticism, but stunned silence. What made them stop was not technique alone, it was lived experience. Mary's voice did not try to sound pretty or bend itself to the R&B formulas of the time. It felt as though an entire life trailed behind every note pain, anger, longing, and a desire for salvation. In the early 1990s, when R&B still leaned heavily toward smoothness and romance, her voice cracked open a new horizon. Mary was signed almost immediately. For a girl raised amid violence and addiction, this was not just a career opportunity, but the first real escape from a fate that had seemed predetermined. Just a few years later, that miracle took tangible form. In 1992, her debut album, What's the 411, was released and quickly made waves. The record sold more than 3 million copies, transforming Mary from an unknown name into the most striking new face of contemporary R&B. Songs like Real Love not only climbed the charts, but defined an entirely new style hip-hop soul. Here, street beats met a wounded voice, creating music that was both gritty and strangely intimate. That success did not come from hiding the past, but from bringing it to the surface. Mary did not sing to please the market. She sang as if confessing, as if recounting her own life. She later admitted that her voice had saved her from a tragic life on the brink of collapse. For Mary, music was not a reward, it was a lifeline. Each recording session was a way of keeping herself from falling back into the old darkness. Audiences felt this almost immediately. People listened to Mary not just for the melodies, but for the feeling of being understood. Those who had grown up in poverty, lost their way, or believed there was no exit could all find a part of themselves in her voice. The admiration she inspired was not merely for talent, but for the truth she dared to carry onto the stage. In an industry that often favors appearance and perfection, Mary J. Blige emerged as proof that true gift lies not only in a voice, but in the depth of the person behind it. The success of What's the 411 did more than launch a career, it brought light into her own life. A light kindled from the darkest place imaginable. And from that moment on, people began to understand this was not a fleeting phenomenon, but the birth of an icon forged through pain. When she chose pain over safety. In 1994, just into her early 20s, Mary released her second album, My Life. No embellishment, no concealment, no attempt to beautify pain. This was not an album designed to please the market, but a confession. Mary wrote most of the lyrics herself, laying down things she had never dared to say out loud: depression, addiction, domestic violence, loneliness, and thoughts of self-destruction. Music was no longer a space to showcase talent. It became a closed room where she was forced to confront herself. The decision was frighteningly risky. At a time when early 1990s R&B still favored glossy love stories, Mary pulled listeners into a dark world where happiness was a luxury. She did not play the victim, nor did she seek excuses. My Life felt like tearing away the glamorous layer that success had just wrapped around her, exposing a young woman still struggling to survive one day at a time. What made this album different was not only its subject matter, but its stance. Mary did not tell her story from a safe distance. She surrendered her entire self to the music. Each song was a fragment of life, each lyric an unhealed wound. In some moments, her voice no longer reached outward, but turned inward, as if speaking to herself, trembling, exhausted, yet refusing to look away. Listening to My Life. One is not simply hearing music, but witnessing an act of self-exposure. Commercially, it was a high-risk move. No one could be certain that audiences would accept such raw truth. Yet it was precisely that honesty that marked a turning point for contemporary R&B. My Life not only succeeded in sales, but came to be regarded as one of the most influential albums of the decade, opening a new approach music as therapy. Mary did not try to appear strong. She allowed herself to be vulnerable, and that vulnerability made millions feel seen. For Mary, this album was not a strategy, it was survival. She later admitted that at that time, music was the only thing keeping her from falling into the abyss. Writing and singing. My Life was like an extended inner dialogue, painful, exhausting, but necessary. It was her way of facing depression instead of running from it, of naming her pain, rather than letting it silently destroy her. When the spotlight became a trap. After My Life, Mary J. Blige did not simply enter a phase of greater fame, she entered a system. One where everything ran smoothly around profit, and the person caught at the center of that machine was often treated as expendable wear and tear. For Mary, that realization came late, and it came painfully. She began to understand that the people closest to her were not there to protect her, but to exploit her. Mary once described how that system worked with a chilling honesty. "The people making money off me kept me blind. Mary likes cocaine. Make sure she has enough. Alcohol. Bring it so she can drink." That was not exaggeration. It was the operating mechanism. As long as Mary performed well-sold records and generated millions, her self-destructive habits were quietly fed, not out of care, but out of convenience. A sober artist who sets boundaries is a risk. A lost one is far easier to control. Gradually, a circle formed around Mary acquaintances. Friends, collaborators, people who spent her money faster than she ever could herself. Parties bled into one another. Endless nights followed. No one asked whether she was okay. No one stopped to ask how long she could survive if this continued. As long as she showed up on time, could stand on stage, could still sing the hits, everything was considered fine. Genuine concern became a luxury in a system that measured human worth by revenue. The bitterest part was not being used, but the absolute loneliness inside the crowd. Mary had fame money and contractual power, but no one truly on her side. Praise arrived alongside the sound of bottle caps popping. Intimate hugs came with bills paid by her own wallet. Slowly, Mary did not just lose control of her personal life, she began to lose herself. The system did not force Mary to self-destruct. It did something far more insidious. It encouraged it. Encouraged her to keep sliding downward because it benefited those around her. When a young artist carries a past of trauma, addiction, and depression, the right kind of care can save them. But neglect or worse enablement can turn pain into a goldmine. And for many years, Mary J. Blige became exactly that kind of goldmine. The consequence was that her career began to wobble. Not because of a lack of talent, but because her life force was being drained. Recording sessions grew exhausting. Long tours felt like punishment. Mary was still there, still singing, but the light in her eyes slowly dimmed. Behind songs that grew darker and darker was a person being worn down piece by piece by the very machine that had once lifted her to the top. To outsiders, this may have looked like a rough patch, but to Mary, it felt like a total betrayal by the people she trusted, and by an industry that constantly talks about creativity, but rarely about responsibility. She did not only feel anger, but shame. Shame for having fallen into that trap. Shame for believing that success would bring safety. When the lights went out and the darkness spoke, behind the success of my life, Mary J. Blige entered a period she herself later admitted was the darkest of her life. While the public saw a superstar standing center stage, Mary was fighting daily with relentless thoughts of self-destruction. In many interviews years later, she did not avoid the truth. In the early years of her career, Mary struggled with the desire to end it all, and increasing substance use was merely a temporary way to push that despair down. The collapse did not arrive in a loud, dramatic moment. It unfolded quietly over time, like a chronic illness. Mary had money, fame, a packed schedule, yet inside was a bottomless void. Sleepless nights followed one another. Parties became false shelters. Cocaine, hard liquor. None of it was about pleasure, but about not feeling anything at all. When pain grows too large, numbness becomes the goal. My life at this point was no longer just an album. It was a living document of a mind unraveling. Mary once said that during that period her constant thought was, "I don't want to live anymore." The dark lyrics were not written to shock, but as the most honest record of her mental state. Each song felt like a diary page sung aloud, where loneliness, guilt, and despair were left uncovered. Listening to that album, one can sense something chilling. This is not art imitating sadness. It is sadness speaking for itself. The pressure of fame only made everything worse. Mary still had to perform, keep smiling, keep singing for applause, a bitter paradox of celebrity life. She has shared that there were moments when the only thing keeping her upright was not faith or status, but her fans. Voices from the crowd just walk behind me, became a fragile thread pulling her back from the edge, not because they knew how much she was hurting, but because in that moment, Mary felt she still mattered to someone. The cruelty of depression is that it does not require a rational reason. Mary had everything society usually defines as success, yet her mind rejected it all. She was both a source of inspiration for millions and a victim of her own unhealed trauma. That contradiction made the pain even more isolating, surrounded by people, yet with nowhere to place her fear. During this period, Mary did not find answers right away. She knew only one thing: if she kept running, the ending would be destruction. The breakdown forced her to confront reality: that talent does not grant immunity from mental illness, that success does not automatically heal old wounds. This is the moment when Mary's story reaches its deepest human truth: even the strong can break, and admitting that is not weakness. When the truth was called by its name. After the collapse, Mary J. Blige began doing something she had long avoided: putting dates and numbers to her own pain. No more vague storytelling. Mary became specific, because she understood that truth only carries weight when it is concrete. In interviews spanning from the late 2000s into the early 2000s, Mary publicly confirmed for the first time that she had been sexually abused at the age of 5, a memory buried for more than 3 decades. She also acknowledged years of alcohol and cocaine addiction, particularly severe, between 1992 and 1996, when her career was exploding while her inner life was in free fall. "Everything that happened had a reason," Mary said. "Otherwise, I wouldn't be someone who keeps trying to become better, to love more." That statement marked a shift in awareness. Pain was no longer something to escape, but something to understand. That honesty was most clearly affirmed through the documentary Mary J. Blige's My Life, which premiered in 2021 at the Tribeca Film Festival. In the trailer and promotional interviews, Mary stated plainly, "My Life is probably my darkest album. I don't know how many other people have felt that way too." She confirmed that many songs on the album were written during a period when she thought about death almost every day. By anchoring My Life to a specific time and context, 1994, Mary was not merely recounting music history, she was affirming the authenticity of every lyric. The power of truth lies in its social impact. After the documentary's release, Mary received thousands of letters and messages from fans who said they had found language for their own pain through her music. This was not anecdotal sentiment. My Life is consistently ranked by professional charts among the most influential albums of the 1990s, and is frequently cited in studies on music as emotional therapy. Truth, when spoken at the right moment, opened a space for healing for millions. In her personal life, Mary did not shy away from uncomfortable facts either. She married Kendu Isaacs in 2003, but filed for divorce in July 2016 after 13 years of marriage. The proceedings extended and were finalized in 2018. In court filings and subsequent interviews, Mary disclosed that Isaacs had spent more than $420,000 on extramarital relationships during their marriage, a figure that became concrete evidence of the betrayal she described. Mary called her former husband a con artist and said bluntly, "I was tricked, I was played." The disclosure of financial details was not meant to humiliate, but to draw a definitive line under a story others had long told on her behalf. What stands out is that Mary does not use truth for self-pity. She uses it to reclaim authorship of her own narrative. By naming years, numbers, and direct confirmations, Mary turns what were once rumors into a living record. The courage here is not in exposing everything, but in taking responsibility for the truth, even when it makes one's own image more fragile. Rebuilding herself from the rubble. After years of spiraling downward, Mary J. Blige understood that without change, there would be only one ending. Her rebirth did not begin in a recording studio or with a new contract, but with faith. Mary has said that even when she was still drinking and getting high, she knew there was still God. In nights that felt completely without escape, she prayed a very simple prayer: "Please send someone to help me." It was not an instant miracle, but the decision not to let go of herself. The first person who was sent, according to Mary, was Kendu Isaacs, then her future husband. Without flattery or excuses, Isaacs was willing to say the things Mary most needed to hear: that she was destroying herself, and that if she wanted to live, she had to take responsibility for her own life. That blunt honesty became the initial anchor for her rebuilding process. No romanticizing pain, no avoiding reality. Mary began serious treatment sobriety, learning to recognize depression, and building a new discipline for living. She admitted the process took many years, filled with relapses and doubt. But step by step, Mary reclaimed control. "I'm in a much better place now," she said in later interviews, stressing that better did not mean perfect. It meant knowing how to care for her mental health every day. Her personal recovery quickly reflected in her music. After the chaotic period, Mary released a series of albums that revealed a different state of mind, no longer confessions from despair, but standing back up after collapse. The peak came with the breakthrough 2005, the album that returned her to the top with a #1 debut on the Billboard 200 millions of copies sold, and 3 Grammy Awards in a single night. This was not just commercial success. It marked proof that Mary could be reborn without abandoning her truth. Growing pains. 2008 followed, further solidifying the image of a more mature artist who knew how to set boundaries and protect herself. Alongside music, Mary expanded her healing journey into the community. In 2017, she launched the Strength of a Woman Festival and Summit, not merely a music festival, but a space designed to empower women, especially Black women, through conversations about mental health, faith, and self-agency. This reflected a profound shift. Mary was no longer just trying to survive. She was actively creating an ecosystem so others would not have to walk alone. Faith remained a central pillar. Mary does not preach, but she practices through disciplined living, choosing healthier environments and returning to the values that once saved her in childhood. Music is no longer just a diary of pain, but a responsible tool for healing. Healing herself first, then letting that healing ripple outward. What makes Mary's rebuilding journey resonate so deeply is its realism. There is no overnight transformation, no perfect version replacing the past. Just a woman walking out of hell in small, steady steps, refusing to turn back even when exhausted. From that, Mary J. Blige becomes living proof of a simple yet powerful truth. Light does not erase darkness. It only shows us how to move forward without being swallowed by it. Another fall. Just when Mary J. Blige believed she had moved past the darkest chapter of her life, another crisis struck, this time, not from addiction or the machinery of power, but from the collapse of her marriage. In 2016, after 13 years together, Mary filed for divorce from Kendu Isaacs. What followed, stretching into 2018, quickly turned into a public, exhausting, and brutal battle, exposing yet another layer of pain Mary never expected to face. Mary did not hide her emotions. She called her former husband a con artist and admitted that the breakup almost killed me, not simply because love had ended, but because of the sense of betrayal by the person who had stood beside her during her recovery. Divorce filings revealed that Isaacs had spent more than $420,000 on extramarital relationships during their marriage, a figure that shocked not only financially, but cut deeply into already fractured trust. For Mary, it was a double blow: emotional devastation paired with crushing financial pressure. The consequences extended far beyond legal paperwork. Mary was left carrying heavy debt, her performance schedule was disrupted, and her mental state shaken. She admitted there were days she woke up simply wondering whether she still had the strength to go on. But unlike earlier collapses, Mary refused to let herself spiral. She said she had to keep my smile and my spirit, not to pretend everything was fine, but to avoid surrendering. Maintaining discipline, sticking to work routines, and holding on to the habits that had once rebuilt her life became the way she prevented the storm from sweeping everything away. The anger was real. The bitterness was real. But instead of letting them turn inward into self-destruction, Mary transformed them into fuel for self-determination. She learned to separate personal pain from self-worth, to protect financial and emotional boundaries, to stop allowing others to tell her story for her. These lessons came late and at a high cost, but they made Mary steadier in the face of future blows. To the public, the years 2016 to 2018 may have looked like a decline, but on closer inspection, they were a stress test of everything Mary had built after her recovery. And she passed not through miracles, but through resilience, continuing to work, continuing to show up, continuing to believe she deserved a healthier life. That determination was quiet but enduring, turning rupture into momentum. After the loud divorce and years of exhaustion, Mary J. Blige did not return to prove she was okay. She stepped into a new chapter with clearer purpose and renewed energy. That transformation became most visible when she moved beyond the safety of music into film, where she revealed an emotional depth forged through lived experience. In 2017, Mary appeared in Mudbound as Florence Jackson, a black woman living in post-World War II America trapped by poverty, violence, and prejudice. The role was understated yet haunting in its quiet resilience. The result was historic at the 2018 Academy Awards. Mary received 2 nominations: Best Supporting Actress for her performance and Best Original Song for Mighty River. She became the first person in Oscar history to earn dual nominations in those 2 categories in the same year, a milestone affirming that Mary was not merely crossing over, but redefining what a multidimensional artist could be. What made that moment extraordinary was not just the recognition, but the message behind it. Mary had transformed her painful experiences into acting and songwriting with real social weight. Mighty River was not background music. It was a voice of history, justice, and forgotten communities fully aligned with the path Mary was choosing. Alongside film, Mary expanded her healing mission into the community. Beginning in 2017, she founded the Strength of a Woman Festival and Summit, a space-blending music dialogue and empowerment for women, especially Black women. Strength of a Woman was not merely the name of a project. It became Mary's central theme. Strength born from honesty, emotional autonomy, financial awareness, and faith. Here, Mary did not stand on stage to recount victories, but to share tools, mental health awareness, disciplined living, and collective support. Living for herself. At this stage of her life, Mary J. Blige is no longer only telling stories of the past. She confronts the conflicts of the present, a time when power, prejudice, and injustice still operate quietly, especially against Black women in the entertainment industry. Unlike her younger years, Mary no longer responds through pain, but through position. She joined the hashtag Champion Your Skin campaign, in collaboration with Gold Bond, aimed at honoring silent warriors, Black stunt women who have long been pushed out of the spotlight. Mary does not choose easy stories to tell. She chooses people who work in danger, who spill sweat and blood, yet are rarely acknowledged. Her message is clear: equality does not come from slogans, but from real opportunities and meaningful recognition. In an industry still dominated by men, Mary has publicly declared her commitment to ensuring that Black female stunt performers are seen, promoted, and paid fairly. She does not speak for them. She opens the door so they can step through themselves. At the same time, Mary challenges age-related bias. She rejects demeaning labels often applied to older women and insists that experience is an asset, not a burden. In her 50s, Mary represents a generation of women who do not ask permission to exist, they stand firm and demand respect. Notably, that determination now coexists with a peaceful private life, a balance Mary took many years to learn how to protect. After her divorce, she acknowledged finding a new relationship kept private and affirmed that things are going well because, most importantly, she feels good within herself. Mary draws a clear boundary around forgiveness. Forgiveness was for me. Forgiveness as a way to free herself to stop carrying the poison of the past. Forgetting or reconnecting, she says, is something else entirely. Though she has no biological children, Mary was once a stepmother to her former husband's 3 children, an experience that deepened her understanding of responsibility, patience, and unconditional care. Today, she prioritizes mental and physical health, disciplined routines, healthy environments, and projects that carry meaning. Mary is preparing for the For My Fans tour and a new album titled Gratitude Names that reflect her current state of mind, grateful to still be standing still, creating, still able to love. The prevailing emotion of this phase is lightness and hope. Mary no longer lives to prove anything to the world. She lives to protect herself, and from that place to protect larger values. Standing amid modern conflicts, Mary J. Blige has become a clear voice, strong without bitterness, firm without hatred. She demonstrates a rare capacity to love herself fully, and from that fullness to fight for justice without losing her peace. A monument built from wounds. Looking back at the full journey of Mary J. Blige, it becomes clear why she is not only called a star, but a monument. Mary's musical achievements are not merely about numbers, yet those numbers themselves reveal a rare magnitude. 9 Grammy Awards,
Mary Jane
1
Blige was
Emmy
born on
Award,
January
4
11,
American Music
1971,
Awards,
and she
dozens
was
of
the
Billboard
second daughter
and
in a
NAACP
household that
honors,
faced many
including
struggles.
the Billboard Icon Award, a title reserved for living legends. She has released 15 studio albums, with 4 reaching number 1 on the Billboard 200, a level of longevity that places Mary among the few artists able to endure in an industry defined
Journey
by
of Mary J.
constant
Blige,
change.
a woman
But Mary's
who
legacy does
transformed
not
her
live on a
personal
trophy
fame
shelf.
into timeless
It lives
music.
in lasting influence. Be Without You held the number 1 position on the R&B chart for 15 consecutive weeks and was recognized by Billboard as the most successful R&B/hip-hop song of all time by cumulative performance.
Today
This
we're
was
diving
not just a
career
commercial
and
record,
chart-topping.
but proof of music that reaches the deepest layers of human emotion. Mary paved the way for an entire generation of young Black artists, those who dared to bring their real stories into music, refusing to hide gender, race, or trauma in order to be accepted. That
Mary
legacy
found solace in her
extends into
love for
cinema.
music.
People
In
give up
2018,
when things get
Mary
hard.
made history at the Oscars by becoming the first person ever nominated in the same year for both acting and an original song. That moment affirmed one truth: Mary J. Blige cannot be boxed in. She represents a model of the
By a family
multidimensional
friend
artist,
at a house
where
party.
lived
Grief escapes
experience
from the
becomes
chaos back
creative
home.
material that transcends boundaries. It is no surprise that Time named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2022, and VH1 honored her among the 100 greatest artists of all time.
Mary
Yet
sang
what
Peaches and
commands the
Nerves
deepest
reunited.
respect is
Mary
not her
began
peak,
singing
but her starting point. From a broken Bronx, from domestic violence, abuse, addiction, and depression, Mary used her own voice to save her life. That journey stands as a powerful manifesto of human resilience and the transformative power of music.
And
It
though
can
she
pull
was
one
initially
person out of
hesitant,
despair
her teachers pushed
and then
onto
help
that
millions
stage.
of others rise with them. After learning about those hidden corners, no one can look at Mary J. Blige the same way again. The stage lights no longer conceal a flawless symbol. They illuminate a real human being, honest, resilient, and compassionate.
This
Mary
ghetto
did not
fabulous
become a
style
legend
would
because
eventually
she
become
never
part of
fell.
her, someone who
She
could be
became a
messed with.
legend because she dared to expose her wounds, dared to live with the truth, and transformed pain into something meaningful for others.
Today's content may reference public figures, businesses, or social events. However, all mentions are intended for exploratory purposes only and are not meant as accusations or judgments. Stories like this, they leave a mark. If you want to keep digging into the truth and honor the legends, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You are now locked in with the Black Vault. What's your take on this? Let me know in the comments.